Hey guys, welcome to the Trash Picture Show. As you know, I adore Alien 3. It's not a perfect movie, it's definitely a movie with problems, and the studio knew this. They had gone through numerous drafts and had spent a substantial amount of money. So I think Fox at the time decided to hedge their bets and market the ever-living shit out of Alien 3, and as a result, we got some very interesting oddities with this movie. Nowadays, it's the norm for a studio to have a big multimedia push with a movie. However, back then, in 1992, with an NC-17 flick, it was a rarity. And the first thing they did was release a very, very deceptive teaser trailer.
In 1979, we discovered in space, no one can hear you scream. In 1992, we will discover on Earth, everyone can hear you scream.
So yeah, suffice to say, Alien 3 did not take place on Earth. This trailer was released before any part of Alien 3 went into production. This was essentially Fox trying to whet the beaks and appetites of fans of the franchise. Yet, if you look through all the scripts, none of the ones that were even considered had a story set on Earth. So again, this was Fox trying to do a bait and switch and get people amped for a movie that hadn't even gone into production yet. Speaking of wetting beaks, Fox decided to go into overdrive in cross-marketing and decided to try and appeal to the choice of a new generation. And they released this trailer, which I still find fucking hilarious to this day. Check it out.
He's from around here.
There was that trailer. I don't know who the fuck those Bill and Ted dudes were supposed to be. And I don't know why the runner xenomorph sounded like it was given a really sloppy blowjob. But if you are confronted by a xenomorph and don't have a pulse rifle, whip out a can of Pepsi and you'll be safe as houses. Again, trying to appeal to the new generation, there was numerous adaptations of Alien 3 video games. And yeah, here is some of the more notable ones. First of these that we're going to look at is actually one of two Alien 3 adaptations I own. And this is for the original Game Boy. This game is essentially an over-the-top isomorphic RPG, which sees you as Ellen Ripley on Fiorina trying to find parts for your EEV and escape before Weyland-Yutani arrives and takes you along with samples of the alien. This game is not easy to just pick up and play. It requires a lot of strategy and thinking. Now keep in mind, it is for the original Game Boy, so you're not going to get something graphically astounding. What you do get is an over-the-top view of Ripley going around the prison looking for supplies in order to fight the aliens and also do other missions such as turn off vent and shaft fans, try and rescue prisoners, and incinerate the eggs. The game culminates with you facing off against the Queen and actually surviving, escaping in your EEV and managing to thwart Weyland-Yutani once again. Next up is the second Alien 3 video game adaptation I own, and what I consider to be the best out of all the video game adaptations. Ironically, this was released by LJN. Yes, Laughing Joking Numbnuts released a decent game. In fact, more than decent. This game is fantastic. At least for the Super Nintendo, this version of Alien 3 is spectacular. Visually and graphically, it's a gorgeous game to look at and a fun game to play. Essentially, it roughly follows the plot of Alien 3, and with most of these games, you guys probably noticed, you will be battling not one but hordes of xenomorphs with weapons. Very, very much a big deviation from Alien 3, but regardless, it's still a fun game to play. At the end of the day, you really couldn't have an unarmed Ripley going into a prison fighting one xenomorph. That would be something more akin to today's Alien Isolation. This game is very much a Contra clone, which ironically, Contra took a lot of elements from the Alien franchise to create, but whereas most Contra clones are pale imitators, this does a fantastic job. As it could easily be a run and gun game, this gives you missions. You have to fulfill different tasks throughout different levels, such as finding prisoners, sealing off different areas of the prison, and also destroying hidden nests. The game gives you Ripley's classic pulse rifle flamethrower combo that lets you deal death to a wide range of xenomorphs, from facehuggers to runners. Again, like the prior game, this all culminates with you having to destroy the Queen, but unlike the prior game, it does go with the cinematic ending of Ripley sacrificing herself to destroy the xenomorphs. This game is amazing. I love it. It still holds up today, and if you can find a physical copy or even emulate it, it's well worth the purchase. The last offering from Nintendo is what I consider to be their weakest. Alien 3 for the NES is unforgiving and graphically unremarkable. Like the prior games, it sees Ripley having to fend off hordes of xenomorphs with her pulse rifle flamethrower combo in the prison complex. However, due to the limitations of the NES, the graphics are left wanting, and what you're left with is a frustrating mess. The only two notable things about this game is it features an abattoir section, which means the developers were given access to the original cut of Alien 3. Another interesting feature is it also has an ending sequence where Ripley survives, and it shows the silhouette of Ripley, which, if you're familiar with Dark Horse Comics, was actually taken from the end of Alien's Nightmare Asylum. Bar this, I can't really say much about Alien 3 for the NES, in that it's a disappointment and borderline unplayable. To round off this video game section, I've decided to save, well, I don't know what I call it, the best for last, but certainly the most interesting. Alien 3 The Gun was an arcade cabinet game that came out to coincide with the movie. Strangely enough, it deviates from the other games in that you follow two Marines who board the Sulaco to find out what happened. So essentially this is Colonial Marines before Colonial Marines, whether that's a good or a bad thing. I haven't played this game fully. I have tried a couple of emulations, and I have to say it's fun in a bonkers kind of way. You essentially go from place to place just mowing down hundreds upon hundreds of aliens. But it's not just aliens. Apparently, Purina had sentry droids. And not only sentry droids, a mechanized fucking tank called the Iron Tortoise. Suffice to say, this game is fucking bananas, but in a good way. Between all these bizarre enemy types and game choices, on top of that, the charm of the really bad English, you can't but love this game. And hell, the finale even has you go mano a mano with Charles Bishop Wayland only to be gunned down by a bunch of Weyland-Yutani commandos. So yeah, this weird oddity of a game is fantastic in its own batshit kind of way. Before I leave the topic of actual video games, Nintendo did something very cool. In their Nintendo magazine, they actually released 2 Alien 3 themed comics to promote their games. And while a bit silly, there's a lot of charm to them, and the art style is fantastic. Speaking of comics, the Dark Horse adaptation of Alien 3 done something very, very interesting. It decided to give its own explanation on how Ripley had become infected. We see the aftermath of the EEV crash and find that Newt has drowned. Suddenly, an embryonic queen xenomorph emerges from her mouth and swims into Ripley's mouth in order to finish its gestation. I'm fairly sure that this isn't from any adaptation or screenplay and may have been the original idea of Dark Horse writer Stephen Grant. Regardless, it's an interesting concept. While not officially canonical, this explanation might have been put in to satiate those Alien fans who are annoyed at the prospect of some hidden egg aboard the Sulaco. So guys, that was my dive into the more bizarre and interesting multimedia aspects of Alien 3. Was there any of these that surprised you, or did you know about them? Let me know in the comments below. And is there any version or script of Alien 3 that you would have liked to have seen? Be it William Gibson's Cold War story or Vincent Ward's medieval horror? Let me know in the comments below, and yeah, have a good one. Take care. Bye now.